Now, let's look at the category of exempt person. So basically, an exempt person is a person who otherwise is liable to tax because, let's say, for example, it's a company, but by the operation of law, they are exempted. And this can be an automatic exemption, which means that under the law only it is provided that certain categories of person are exempt from tax. Or this can be through an application. Now, for example, the government, when they carry out sovereign activities, they will be exempt person. And this will be by application of law, automatic, right? So automatically by application of law, they are exempt. But there could be certain charitable institutions who can make an application to claim an exemption. So by default, they are not exempt from corporate tax, but because of the fact that they are carrying out activities which are in the interest of the overall economy or the government or the socio-economic factor, they can make an application, and on examination of those application, the government can exempt them from corporate tax. So first, let's look at a broader level as to what all entities are exempt person, either automatically or through the application of law. And then we will discuss each one of them in detail subsequently. So when we talk about exempt person, the federal and the emirate government and their departments, authorities, and other public institutions, both at the federal level as well as at the emirates level, the government, their departments, the authorities, the government authorities, and other public institutions will be exempt from corporate tax. They don't need to make an application. By default, under the law only, they are exempt from the application of corporate tax. Wholly government-owned UAE companies that carry out a sovereign or a mandated activity and that are listed in a cabinet decisions. Now, the government need not necessarily perform all its function through the departments, etc. They can even have companies which are owned by the government, and these companies are carrying out activities which the government has to carry out as a sovereign entity. So these wholly government-owned companies which are listed in a cabinet decision. So the cabinet decision for this would be issued in due course. But once that cabinet decision is issued, these companies who carry out a sovereign or a mandated activity will be exempt from corporate tax. Business engaged in the extraction and exploitation of UAE natural resources that are subject to emirate level taxation. So the extraction of natural resources at this particular point in UAE is subject to certain emirates level taxation. To avoid double taxation of this income, it has been provided that the businesses which are engaged in extraction and exploitation of UAE natural resources will be exempt from the application of corporate tax. Charities and other public benefit organizations that are listed in a cabinet decisions, they will also be exempt person. Public and regulated private social security and retirement pension funds, these will also be exempt person, and investment funds, provided they meet certain conditions. Now, we are going to look at each of these particular aspects in detail in the subsequent slides, and therefore, I'm not getting into the broad details here, but just to get an overview, this particular slide was just to tell you at one place, summarized as to what are the tax provisions and who all may qualify as exempt person.